Hello and welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and if you're seeing this video then I am going to be absolutely over the moon. I'm starting this recording much earlier than usual today because I'm going to be attempting one of the great puzzles. This is a puzzle called Loop Nurikabi, and it's by Jakob and Woofer ZFG. Well, why am I doing this? Well, it's one of the highest rated puzzles in the history of puzzles. It is also one of the least solved puzzles in the history of puzzles. And the other reason is that it was recently Woofer's birthday. Let me get the right date, 22nd of April, which was while I was on my vacation. But we had the most charming email from Jakob, who's also obviously part of the authorship of this puzzle. It was just a lovely email saying that, you know, what a great person Woofers is, what a fabulous constructor, and we know that already. But if there was any way that we could attempt this puzzle, which I believe is one they're especially proud of, it would really be a very nice birthday present. So I'm going to try it. It's got 5 stars out of 5 for difficulty on Logic Masters Germany. If you read the comments on Logic Masters Germany, they are from some of the great minds in the world of puzzle solving, all eulogizing about how brilliant this is. So, but also how long it took them to solve. So I'm anticipating that if I can get through this is probably going to be a very, very long video. We don't mean to do long videos very often at all, but sometimes on special occasions it seems appropriate to at least attempt them, and that is what I'm going to do. I will read the rules to this one, which I've read through them a couple of times before I turned on the webcam, and it's not that they're complicated. It's the implications of them are complicated. So I'm not totally sure I've sort of internalized them in my brain yet. But anyway, I will read them to you. And there's an example as well. I've snipped an example. Here's an example. So we're going to be able to have a look at that together and see if we can understand what's going on in a moment or two's time. Now, it's the 29th of April. So that means it is very nearly the start of May. There's a knowledge bomb for you. And at the start of May, 4 p.m. on the 1st of May, we are releasing a brand new Sudoku Hunt over on Patreon, which is the work of none other than Glum Hippo. And it features one of my favourite types of logic puzzle, the Snake Egg puzzle. And Glum Hippo has constructed a number of Sudokus mashed up with Snake Egg logic. Absolutely fabulous stuff. So I commend that to you. As I say, that's coming out on the 1st of the new month, which is going to be very exciting. Over on Patreon right now, so there is no need to wait for it, is the opportunity to have a go at Sumgeons and Dragons. No, not Sumgeons and Dragons, Sumgeons and Diagrams, which is Sunny Jum's absolutely fabulous mashup of the Dungeons and Diagrams game that Mark and I have been streaming recently. We must get back to that, and Sudoku. So you can play that puzzle for free right now, and if you do get stuck, there is a video of me solving it over on Patreon now as well. Other than that, I'm still catching up from my vacation. I think I've got 2 more days of big birthdays to go, so I'm sorry if the birthday announcements take a little longer than usual, but I like doing them, so it's a sort of apology, but I'm not going to stop doing them. And right, so let's go through them. So let's start off with an apology for yesterday. Luca turned 17 yesterday, and the only reason I know about this is a comment on yesterday's video. Luca, I did check, and we didn't get the email about your birthday, so I'm sorry I didn't read it out, but I didn't know about it. And I hope you had a great day, obviously, with lots of chocolate cake. Next, Lisa. I think Lisa is turned 24 today. I know this because your boyfriend Jack wrote to us, Lisa, and told us that the 2 of you have been watching for 3 years, so thank you very much for sticking with us. Next, Sushi, over there in Hong Kong. It could be sushi, I suppose, but it's spelt sushi. Your partner Deep wrote to us and told us that not only is it your birthday today, but the two of you are finishing your exams today, and you might be celebrating with tiramisu. Well, I can accept tiramisu as a poor substitute for chocolate cake. But anyway, I hope the two of you did well in your exams, and many happy returns, Sushi. Next, Kelly, from your friend David. David is one of the absolute pillars of the Sudoku community, and told us that you love Pokemon, anime, English tea, and free refills on Slurpees at the movies. Oh, who doesn't like those? And also David getting you lunch as and when required. So Kelly, many happy returns, and I hope you have a day filled with English tea and chocolate cake. There can't be many things better than that. Next, Celestia, from your friend Jenny. The two of you met on a different corner of the internet, but both bonded over a love of CTC. And apparently, Celestia, you've constructed some of the puzzles we featured. So I don't know if you construct under a different name. I'd be interested to know. But anyway, Celestia, many happy returns. Next, Kelly. This is from Chris on your 1-year anniversary, which happened on April the 19th while I was away. And Chris wrote, Kelly, that he knew you were the one when you were willing to watch hour-long videos of British men solving Sudoku puzzles. So Kelly, well, happy 1-year anniversary, and this message is from Toby and Kiki too, and I have a picture of Toby and Kiki, two fine-looking dogs there, very nice. Next, Nathan, on April the 19th, you turned 26 over there in Washington State. I know this because your fiancée Molly wrote to us and assured me that you were having chocolate brownies, which I fully approve of. So Nathan, I hope it was a good birthday. Nola, it's your birthday today, and I know this because your mum Mareka wrote to us and told us that you like yellow cake with chocolate frosting, which, yeah, that's okay. That's absolutely fine, providing the chocolate frosting is in the correct ratio, 1-to-1, obviously, with the yellow cake. I can't knock it. Nola, many happy returns. Tracy and Sam had their second anniversary on the 23rd of April. And I think Sam, well, no, I know Sam. Tracy wrote about you that you were the best partner that one could imagine. And I think the two of you are in Nebraska, so I hope you had a good anniversary. And then one more birthday, which was for the 21st of April, so I'm over a week late with this one as well. Will, it was your birthday, and I know this because your wife Jenny wrote to us and said you'd appreciate a shout out. So many happy returns to Will. And that is, I think, all the birthdays. I'm looking at this wall of text on my piece of paper to make sure I'm not missing anything out. I'd feel awful if I missed another birthday out. But there we go. Right, that's all the birthdays done. Let me turn my attention to Loop Nurikabi. I mean, I love Nurikabi, and I love Loop. So how hard can this be? Let's see. The rules are as follows. Every cell... Yeah, sorry, the rules involve scrolling, so I'm just making sure I'm at the top of the rules. Every cell is either water or land. All water cells must be orthogonally connected, so that means they share an edge with each other. These two cells are not orthogonally connected. These two are. And no 2x2 area may be entirely water, so we can't have watery areas like that. Groups of orthogonally connected land cells form islands, which do not touch orthogonally, but may touch diagonally. So that is very standard Nurikabi logic, I think. Yeah, I think that's just Nurikabi rules, actually. I'm just mulling that over in my brain. That is what I understand Nurikabi rules to be. So basically we've got Nurikabi going on. And then we have to, now it gets complicated, we have to draw a non-intersecting loop through the centres of some cells, which passes through each island exactly once. The loop may only visit one cell in each island. So when I first read through these rules, I thought this might be a country road type puzzle, which would mean that the loop entered an island and sort of stuck around in the island before exiting it. But it's not that. It literally, I mean, if this is an island, let's draw an island in. I don't think there's a restriction on islands being a 2x2 area. So I think that is a potential island. But then when we draw a loop, so we're going to use the pen tool, aren't we, to draw a loop. Let's see. You know, the loop was going to have to do something like that, because it can only touch one cell in the island, is what the rules seem to be telling us. Right, the next part of the rules says, if a clue is on a land cell, it indicates the size of its island. Every island must contain exactly one clue. Right, so that thing I just drew, which was that's not going to work, is it? Because if that was an island, it would have 2 clues in it. And I think we're being expressly told, well, we're not only being told that you can't put 2 clues in an island, we're also being told that that couldn't be an island. Because if that was an island, it would have no clues in it. And I don't think that's going to work either. If a clue is on a water cell, the loop passes through that cell, and the clue indicates how many water cells are visited by the loop between the previous island and the next island. Okay, this is where I start to lose it in my brain. I think maybe we'll revisit that section of the rules when we look at the example, just to see if we can understand what's going on. Every water section of the loop must pass through exactly one clue. Every water section of the loop must pass through exactly one clue, and a question mark can represent any non-zero value. I will tell you that when we got the email from Jacob about this, or Jacob, I sent this to a tester and asked them to give me an idea of how long a video might last if I was able to solve it, and the tester did spend a long time on this but could not solve it. So the amount of time that they suggested it might take me was infinity. Okay, so let's go to the example. Hopefully that's visible. It's really that final paragraph, or final main paragraph of rules I want to understand. So the example puzzle has a sort of bone-shaped grid, and it looks like green is island, isn't it? Because the blue cells have been orthogonally connected. That makes sense if they're water. So if we take a quick scan of the answer, you can see that there are no 2x2 sections of water. That I can see. Right, let's revisit this. If a clue is on a water cell, the loop passes through that cell. Yes. And the clue indicates how many water cells are visited by the loop between the previous island and the next island. Yeah, I suppose I can see that. So I'm looking at the 5 clue there, and the loop goes through that cell, and then it stays. Yeah, and the 5 is counting how many loop cells there are between this island with the 3 in it and this island with the question mark in it. So this question mark clue here, had it not been a question mark, would I think have been a 3. And what does it say? Every water section of the loop must pass through exactly one clue. Yeah, so I'm just... If you look at how the loop moves between islands, you can see that it always has exactly one clue. So if we look if we look, the loop leaves this square, heading to the west, drops down, goes across, goes up, hits a clue, and then exits to the next island. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the thing that I think I'm finding a bit tricky, but maybe this is just me being a bit slow, is obviously there are cells like this one and this one that are part of the water but not part of the loop. Yeah, I mean, I can see why, I can sort of conceptualize why that's okay. It just feels odd to me. Right, okay, well, I mean, I'm not going to get much further, I don't think, by staring at the example. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Happy birthday, Woofer ZFG, and I hope I'm not going to butcher your puzzle. Let's get cracking. Okay, so well, that looks very constrained to me. And a 1 clue, I mean, what does that even mean? A 1, I was about to go back to the example again. I think I saw a 1 clue in the example. I wanted to see what it did. But no, let's think about it. So a 1 clue, it depends. The one, no, hang on, I can't even do this in my head. I was going to say that these have to be different colours, but is that even true? Can you have... I think it's not true. It might be true there, but I don't know if it's true there. So what I'm wondering is, I do think it's right. Okay, so here are some thoughts that are just as my brain has them, which is probably not going... It's probably just going to convince you all of my madness, but those 2 clues can't both be islands. I do think that is true, because the top one would be of size 6, and the bottom one would be of size 4, and yet there is a rule, I'm sure I read it, that said that islands do not touch one another orthogonally, but may touch diagonally. Well, this is an orthogonal connection, so this is illegal. So these can't both be island, but could they both be water? Now, that I'm less sure about. Because I think what I think is true is if these were both water, let's draw a loop. I think the loop couldn't go there like that, because I think the way I understood the rule was that the loop has to enter both of these squares, but the 6 is measuring how long the loop sits in that stretch of water before it exits to islands. So if I was to go straight down to the 4 clue, I would be disobeying that clue's requirement. There's one, yeah, I suppose another way of thinking about it is every water section of the loop passes through exactly 1 clue. Well, if it does that, it's passed through 2 clues, hasn't it? So I think that would be telling us that we do that. But and I can see that these can't both be water as well, but providing this or this, I mean, goodness only knows what this extra question mark means. No, I mean, and the only point I was doing this for was to try and convince myself as to whether you could have two clues next to one another that had the same colour, if you like, so they were both of one type. We convinced ourselves they can't both be islands, but I think they could both be water, or they might well be able to both be water. And that's really weird, because that means that even if I get a start in the puzzle, let's say I got what this colour was or what this colour was, I don't necessarily know what the colour next to it is, or the cell next to it is. Although, when I was just thinking about these two clues, I was thinking that I don't even know whether what I was about to say is just totally and utterly wrong, actually. If this is water, then that is island, I think. Because this being water, if that's water, I don't know why I want my watercolour to be purple, by the way. Sorry, my phone is buzzing at me. Purple and grey feel like, yeah, they feel. I've got to make the islands grey. What was the example? Oh, blue and green. No, that doesn't feel right to me. Grey is the right colour for an island, not green. So, yeah, anyway. Anyway, what was I going to say? What I was going to say was, if that is water, then the loop goes through this square, and that's a corner of the loop. So the loop does that. Now that means that this clue can't also be water, because otherwise there's two water sections on in the same section of loop, if you see what I mean. Because what the clues are meant to tell you, if they're water, is the expanse between islands. So there needs to be an island to the east of this 9 clue and an island to the south of the 9 clue before there's another water clue, if you see what I mean. That this section of loop could extend, but it can't just bump into another water section of the loop. So I think that has to be grey. But this is only if this is water. The other way round, I was trying to think about that. It felt far more complicated to me, but that's just because I probably don't understand the rules yet. So if it did this, well, no, okay. But the good thing about this is these are different colours, aren't they? Because we know these can't both be island, because they've got different numbers in them. And we're only allowed to put one clue in an island as well. So if this is grey, if it's the other way round, and that's the island, and that's the water, but that's how it would have to go. If this is grey, that cannot also be grey. And if this is water, we worked out that couldn't be water as well. So these are different colours. But it works very differently, because if this is island, this has to be an island of size 9, so it's going to have to get out. But this can't be on the loop, because each island only has one of its cells on the loop. So if that was a corner of the loop, you'd have to take a second cell. So in fact, this would become a corner of the loop. God, this is complicated. It's already complicated, isn't it? Because if this was a 1 clue, does that... if a water clue is a 1 clue, doesn't that have to be surrounded on both of its loop extensions by island? I'm looking down because I think that's right. So I think that's right, isn't it? Let's just check the rules. Clue indicates how many water cells are visited by the loop between the previous island and the next island. Well, there would be 1, and it would be the cell itself. So I think those two would both be grey. And that would be the last. Yeah, so this 9 island now, if indeed it's an island, because it might not be, but if it was an island, that cell there is the last time that the loop can go into the 9 island. That would have to be water. Oh, okay, here is a small point which might be slightly relevant. If you have an island that grows like this, at least we now know the colour of those two. In this, because you can't have 2 islands that sort of are orthogonally adjacent, so both of those would be water. I don't like this. Ooh, hang on, I might have found a problem here. That's very clever. Right, okay, I think I have found a problem. At least it's going to allow me to colour that square, and that one actually. Right, why is this wrong? Or why is the thinking I'm about to sort of elaborate on, why is it wrong? So what I'm thinking is that this island can have no more loop in it. And this island has to grow because it has to get to a clue. So that's going to have to be island. But now this loop can't go anymore in this island, so it has to turn into the 4 clue. And that's fine. But where does this clue go? Oh, no, I'm wrong, aren't I? It can go down there. Oh, bobbins. I was thinking it was going to have to turn into the 4 clue, but that's complete and utter nonsense. Well, what it does mean is that that's definitely purple in this paradigm. And then it gets horribly complicated. No, okay, well, all right, but this still doesn't work. This still doesn't work because now this 9 clue has to grow. And where's it going? Well, it's going to have to go over there, definitely. So that clue becomes purple. And how on earth? There's not enough space for that clue. Unless I've totally misunderstood the rules, which is possible. But the 6 clue is saying, a 6 water clue, it's saying that that's part. It must be part of an orthogonal water sequence that is 6 long. And it can't be, there's no space for it. I don't think that can possibly be right. This is trapped in and it's too small. Because even though I don't understand what it does, and I don't, well, I mean, let's progress the logic. We know that the loop goes through there, but it doesn't go through here because the 9 clues already had its cell. So you'd have to do that. That would be a corner. But how on earth can you get a section of 6 water here before you hit something else? You can't. Okay, so although my first idea of logic as to why this didn't work was wrong, it still is impossible. And that means that at least we have a start. we have a start. We can go right back to the beginning, because what we've learnt is that that clue is water, and that clue, and because that's a corner then of the loop, because the loop must go through the 9 clue, this clue is grey, because otherwise this 9 clue is not doing what the instructions tell us it is doing, which is measuring the distance between island regions. So this is a one-sized island. Well, a one-sized island must be surrounded by water. That might be the first and potentially last time in this puzzle that I say something that sounds remotely like intelligible and reasonable. A one-sized island is surrounded by water. That does feel like a natural sentence. So this water has to grow. It's got to be at least of size 9. But yeah, this is where it's going to get horrible though again, because although I wonder if I can just use that same trick again. This might not be how to do this, but what I'm thinking is this little section of loop here has to be 9 long by the time it finishes, because there's got to be 9 water cells, all of which are all loop. Now if we don't go this way, then we have to go that way, don't we? And if we go that way, again, we can't bump into clues before we get to a size 9, and we're going to have to take this square. This is all going to be water, and this 6th clue, whether it's island or whether it's water, there's not enough space for it again. So that seems to suggest that we do go that way. And if we go that way, yeah, see, this is weird. That 4 clue, why couldn't that be water? Providing this goes down, and it has to go down in fact, because this has got to have a length 9 before it hits an island. So that's the only place that the 9 clue can go. Alright, forget about this. I can do this one, because that can't be 2 by 2 of a 2 by 2 of water, so that's got to be island. See, it would be really nice if we knew which way that went, because if that went this way, then that would be water, because we know islands do not bump into each other. Okay, I don't know what to do now. I'm sort of... Oh, well, no, I do. That's got to extend. It's a loop, isn't it? It's not a snake. So we have got to somehow join up these ends in the end. So that's gone into a water cell. I don't really know what that means. I don't know what to do. Oh, I'm so sorry if this is obvious. It's probably something to do with how that thing grows, but I don't really understand how to think about it. If it bumps into the 6, maybe that's what I meant to say. Like if it takes that square, then that forces that to be water, which forces this to be well, this is then on the loop. Okay. This might work. It might not as well, but I'm going to try it. This thing, how does that get to be of size 6? At least, I mean, it's a water section of the loop. And the reason I'm interested in that little area, which can't all be water, and yet I sort of feel must be, because this has to get to be of size 6 at least. So it can go there. It can try not to take this 2 by 2 by taking this square. So it could be like this, that's 3. It's going to have to take that square. It has to. And the moment those two squares are both in this 6 region, these two squares must be in the 6 region because they can't get to other clues. So that 2 by 2 is forced to be all water. And that's not going to work. Now, the only problem with that is that actually how the puzzle works? Is that logic sound? Is there something I've not understood about how water cells are meant to work? A water clue indicates how many water cells are visited by the loop between the previous island and the next island. So how can that not be at least of size 6 without bumping? It must be. I think that's fine. I do think that's right. So that's quite good. So that tells us this doesn't bump into this 6 clue. So it must go down. And in fact, well, I was going to put a little marking to say it doesn't go there, but that's probably dangerous. All right, but now that clue is bumping into this island of size 3. So that clue is definitely water and therefore on the loop. I have a look. Can I not just extend this logic though? I mean, just to come back to this 6 clue. If that 6 clue is ever water, don't I always end up with a 2 by 2 here? So maybe the idea is that this clue has to be an island, and then it can fill this up because there's no restriction on 2 by 2s of islands. So let's just think about that. If that's water, how does it ever end up not taking a 2 by 2? Oh, I see. It could do that. Oh no, it can't do that. That's a different 2 by 2. Yeah, if this is a 6, given this can't all be part of the 6, only 2 of these cells maximum could be part of the 6, so those 3 must be part of the 6, which means that's part of the 6, and that's a 2 by 2. So I think that is an island, which means it must be separated from this island by water. Now this has to grow. There we go. So it's got to go there. Even if it took this square, it's still taking that square, which means these two squares are both island. That square can't be island, so that's water. That square can't be island, so that's water. Oh, right. Ah. Well, yeah, that's really interesting. Gosh, I am enjoying this, actually. It's not quite as bad as I was fearing. I don't know why I said that. How long have I been going? How can I have had 40 minutes? That's absurd. That has flown by, but I'm just pleased I'm getting anywhere. Right. What I'm thinking about this is, I know that that's a water clue cell, so that it's on the loop. But we know that the loop can't do that, don't we? Because the loop has to, once it goes through a water clue cell, the loop has to then, that 4 is measuring how the distance between islands on its section of the water. So we can't just go in there. Otherwise it's not measuring the distance between islands, it's measuring the distance between water clues. So that, I think, is a valid loop marking, and that is forced. And now we've had one cell in this 6 region, so we can't have another one, so we have to turn here. Right, and therefore, well, that's interesting. You see, I'm wondering whether I'm allowed, well, not allowed, I'm forced to do that now. Because if I do that, well, okay, let me explain my full thinking. I was thinking I couldn't go up, because if I go up, I've got to re-enter the 6 clue again, and I've already had 1 in this island, and I can't bump into this 9 clue. So I've basically got a choice. I either go east into the 3 clue or south into the question mark clue. But if I go east into the 3 clue, this section of water here that takes in this square has not had a clue. Every water section of the loop must pass through exactly 1 clue. So I think I've got to stay in the water. I've got to stay submerged in the water until I get to a clue. So I've got to go down. Now, this 3 is not on the loop, because if it was, I'd take 2 cells in it. So all of those are off the loop. And the other thought I had was that this 4 clue has to grow, because that's meant this is meant to be a length of 4, and I can see by growing it to here, I can force this now to, oh, this is gorgeous. This is gorgeous, because that's got to be grey to avoid a 2 by 2. This 3 clue can't bump into this clue, or it would be of size 4. So that's got to be water. That's got to be grey. That completes the grey island. So those have got to be water. This has to be of length 9 in the end. It's only of length 4. So that goes there at least. And that means this is grey, because otherwise I've got a 2 by 2 of water. And that's got to grow to be of size 4. I can see that the loop doesn't go down there, but let me just think about this for a second. This has to get to a clue, doesn't it? Is that the point of the puzzle? Everything has to keep getting to clues. Yeah, maybe that is worth thinking about, because so that I could see that this couldn't turn down, but the reason I saw it as not turning down was that it would go into the 4 island. That would be the last cell on the 4 island it could take, so it would be forced to close the loop, and we'd have more than 1 loop in the grid. But isn't there also the point that we came up with over here when we thought about this square, which said that once the loop enters a section of water, it has to sit in the water and sort of immerse itself. The loop has to stay in the water until it gets to a water clue, because every water section of the loop needs to have a clue. And this one hasn't had a clue yet. So that means that has to be water. Oh, and it goes there. We don't know what it does then, I don't think. I have a lot. This 3 clue is interesting as well, because I still haven't worked out which cell in the 3 clue is water. Is loop, and I think that one's quite tricky, because that would be a corner. If this is loop, this is not loop. This one here. So we'd have to do that. And now this 9 clue feels difficult to me, because I've only had 5 cells of it so far. So I couldn't go straight down, because then it would only reach a count of 6. So it would have to go there, and that's going to mean we get a 2 by 2 of water. So I think this is out of bounds. which means that the loop does go into this square, and that's a corner, so it does that. Okay, I don't know what to do now, but I can see this needs to get to a clue, so I'm going to extend it. And there's no clues to the east of it, so it's got to go right. And this 4 clue has to reach a count of 4, so I'm now going to claim both of those have to be loop. This island hasn't got to a clue, so it looks like it's heading down to the question mark here. Okay, here's a bit of logic. They can't both be water, because that would create a 2x2 of water. So that's definitely got to be an island cell. And how are we ever going to know whether that's an island cell? Oh, I think I've broken it. What possible thing could possibly tell us whether this is a clue or not? Not whether it's a clue. I know it's not a clue. Whether it's island or water. Because if that's water, I don't see how that can be water. Well, no, that's not true. I do see how it can be water, but I don't see how it can be loop. Because if it was loop, it would be a corner. And this section of water needs to get to a clue before it goes back into an island. Oh, yeah, okay. Maybe that's a simpler way of thinking about it. That this cell has to get to a clue before it leaves the water. So it's got to go that way. It's got to get to a clue before it leaves the water. So that's got to be water. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So is that the point? Maybe that is the 9 clue. Yeah, that's going to be right, actually. Because if this section does not join up with this section, I'm sure we're going to get a 2x2 here. Because yeah, well, you're either going to get a 2x2 or you're just going to break the 9 clue. Because if this section doesn't join here, well, it can't do a loop like that because that'll create a 2x2. So it has to take this square to escape, which means this square has to be an island, which means that square has to be an island. And now this hasn't got enough space because we're pontificating this is getting out here. Yet this needs to be of length 9. This just doesn't work, does it? So actually this does join up, and there's only one way it can join up and not be too large, and that's with alacrity. It has to join up directly, and that right. Well, this is good. Oh no, is it good? I was going to say it's good because it gives me some confidence it's right, but it still left me with the same question, which is this square. Well, Because, oh, well, I don't know, actually. If that's water, then it's part of the water, obviously. The loop never went into here, so it doesn't have to. It doesn't have a sort of numerical quality that it needs. But if it's grey, how could this clue then? Something has to determine whether this is grey or pink, island or water. I'm almost wondering whether it's that clue. Because if that clue was grey and it connected here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's not impossible. Then maybe it will determine whether that can be island or water. But if this island here bumps into a question, let's just say it bumps into that question mark. How is this ever determined? Because question mark can be anything. There's nothing about the loop. I mean, the loop can never go into this square. So I'm almost wondering whether there's a uniqueness point here, which is I won't use because I don't allow myself to the knowledge that there's only one solution to the puzzle. But if there is only one solution to this puzzle, I have the suspicion that that area joins to that area. I still wouldn't know what this is. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking. Now, what on earth am I meant to do now? This 4 clue is complete. So wherever the loop goes next, which is going to be here. Oh, it can't go there. Look, that's interesting. It can't go there because then it will take a second island clue. So it either goes there or there, but whichever one of those it goes into next, that cannot be a water clue, because then that would make this 4 clue erroneous. That 4 clue should have been a 5 clue. Okay. Sorry, I've got nothing here. I'm trying to understand it. I can see there's some sort of restriction here in terms of how many water cells there can be, because obviously we can't have 2x2s here, so something here has to be island. I don't know whether it connects to the 4 or whether, well, actually if it connected to the 4, well, the only thought I was having there, which I still think is wrong actually, is that if it say did this, we can't have the loop running down there because that's going to take too many island cells. So that's weird actually. So if we do go, if this 4, let's think about that. Can this 4 not take that square? So if it doesn't take this square, both of those are grey. Now I think this is still possible, because we could now Sorry, I realise I'm stopped speaking, but I'm just trying to understand what's going on here. We can't take any of these 3 squares on the loop now, so we'd have to take that square, and the loop would have to do that. And that might be okay, because both of those would then be water, and they'd be different. That would have to be water, because this section hasn't got... Oh no, hang on, that doesn't work. This section's never got a clue. Okay, well let's come back. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Okay, that's really interesting. So if... No jokes. if the 4 clue is of exactly that shape, so it never comes into this square, then I'm going to claim neither of these squares can be on the loop, because that will force the loop to take both of those squares. That can't be on the loop, because that's a cul-de-sac. So this is on the loop, which means the loop dips down, and that domino there has not got a clue in it. That water section of the loop should have had a clue in it and didn't. So in fact, what that is telling us is that this is definitely... Well, this is a different problem then. Because this, I'm trying to work out which cell on this 4 island is on the loop. It's not this one. It can't be that one, because then the loop's in a corner. It'll take 2 cells on the island. Now, if it's this one, then the loop has to turn down through there, and we know that doesn't work because the domino above it doesn't have a clue. So none of these cells is on the island. Is on the loop, sorry, and therefore this square can't be on the island. So if we extend this downwards, then that would need to be on the loop, but the loop would end. So the only way I think this can work is if that is part of the 4 clue and it's on the loop, but okay, well, this might have broken again, but let's just check now, because the logic has taken us to this position, which must mean that this is a 4-size island, so all of those squares become purple to frame that island. We can't have a 2 by 2 here, so that's got to be island. That's got to get to a clue, which is probably this one. But this can't just go here, because again, this needs to get to a clue before it goes into an island next. So I think we have to turn there, but this is on the loop, so that's another corner of the loop there. This still can't go join here. It won't have got to a clue, and therefore that's going to be water. That's going to be island. It still hasn't got to a clue, so it's still got to carry on going. It's probably going to hit that one. Oh, this is lovely, actually. It's weird, but lovely. So now this section of water hasn't got to a clue, so that's got to be thingy. It's got to turn. It can't. It's got to get to a clue. Therefore, that's got to extend. It's got to get to a clue. That's got to be island to avoid a 2 by 2. Look, this is working, because now it turns to get to a clue, and it looks like it's got the correct count of 3. This island hasn't got to a clue, so that's got to grow. This now is forced upwards into a clue. The next cell that the loop takes from here is well, yeah, it's island, but it's not the island to the west of it, because it would go like that, and it would take 2 cells of that island, so that's out of bounds. This loop section, this one here, hasn't got to. It needs to get to a clue before it goes into an island, so we can do that. Probably this clue. Yeah, we can extend the loop. I don't think this clue, this cell, can ever be on the loop, because the loop would do that. And if the loop did that, however this grows, and it must grow to get to a clue, it will, the loop will take a second or even a third island cell. So I think this is out of bounds. I might as well completely frame it. This is out of bounds. It's funny, you get a flurry of progress. And you reach this point, and I just can't see where I'm meant to... Well, hang on. No, I can see something. That cell cannot be water, can it? Because if it's water, the loop visits this square. But the loop can't go up, so it would have to turn down, and we get a tiny little loop there that reminds me of yesterday's puzzle. So we can't do that. That's going to be... Okay, well that's still interesting, because this clue is obviously part of an island, but the loop never goes in any of these 3 squares, because it will always take a second island square from this island region. So where? Yeah, this is very interesting. So that the loop section that cuts this island is not in any of those 3. If that was the loop section, it would take again. It would hit the loop twice. So we have to get this island bigger, which means it has to come to here, which forces this now to be island, because it can't be water, because it would need a clue. So this is the first cell of this tentative island, which could possibly be the cell that the loop visits on this island. Or this could keep growing and it could be a totally different cell. We have no clue about how big this actually is, but we have at least managed to extend it to be the size of a P pentomino. Now this 6 has to get another cell, which is probably this one. No, that's totally and utterly wrong. It's not that one, because look at that. That is water, and at the moment it's a puddle. It is not connected. There is no Venetian gondola system that would run from this region. You can't get it to the rest of the puzzle. Even if it took this one, it's still not connected to its friends. So it has to get out, and now that one has to be grey. None of the rest of this 6 thing is loop. And that, I see, that's going to give us a corner here, because this 2 clue is water, so it must be on the loop. I was wondering whether connectivity, it just doesn't, does it? I was trying to see whether there's a this argument I was thinking about with this grey region, and whether it connected to the 13. I don't think it's solved by connectivity. This cell is just not interesting from a connectivity perspective. Okay, so it's probably this clue is what I'm thinking. My phone's buzzing at me, that's fine. Now, if it's this clue, it's a 2 clue, so it's saying that the length of water is 2. At the moment it's 1, because we've only got this square. So one of these squares, yeah, one of these squares exactly is water, and one of them must be, oh, well that's good. Yes. Okay, yes, I think I see how to do this. This 6 clue is finished, so I can frame it. Now, these 2, it's completed, isn't it, this 2 clue? So the next cell it takes, in both directions, is island, which means that is island. Now, unfortunately, we don't know whether it goes there or there. But whichever way it goes, oh well, it can't if it goes there. Hasn't? Yeah. Oh, this is gorgeous. Again, it's so subtle, the logic, but it's really clear once you see it. Okay, so if the loop went up, then we know that this is island. But then this island here, which we would have created, has got two cells of loop on it. So, in fact, the loop cannot go up. It must go that way into, you've guessed it, an island. This clue here hasn't got to no, I've got to be careful with my nomenclature there. That cell is water. It's not that it needs to connect to a clue, actually. It potentially doesn't, or maybe it does, but I don't know. It definitely has to connect to the rest of the water, which is why this has to be water. Yeah, see, that cell's interesting. That cell could be water, just because... Oh, in fact, that cell is water. No, okay, so it's connectivity again. That domino is a puddle again. It's a pond in the grid. It needs to connect to the rest of the world, so it forces this square to be water. I don't know. I suspect this is part of a 3 clue that does that, and then this just goes up there into water, but I don't know. Right, hang on. Let me think about this. I'm sure that there's something we can do up here. We just have to figure it out. That's got to... No, that's not true. It doesn't have to get to a clue. Or maybe it's the 4 clue down here then. We know that that's completed. So the next cell, that one or that one is island. I don't know, sorry. Is it this one? That's got to get to a clue. That's island. Island definitely has to get to a clue. But I mean, there's a lot of question marks in this grid, isn't there? And the question marks feel very hard to really know what you're dealing with. I don't see. Do I know that this goes there? If this went there, say, like that, no, that's fine, because then this could dip that way into water and go up through the 3 clue. Oh, I'm totally wrong. I thought that was going to be grey, but I don't think it has to be at all. And if this turns into here, that's fine, isn't it? All we're saying then is that this has to get to a clue before it next goes into grey. Wow, how long have I had? I've had an hour, 67 minutes so far. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I thought this might be a 4 or 5 hour video, so I've been expecting a monster. I mean, it can't be. I can't be meant to use this idea around this, can I? This is a situation, it's a difficult one in a way, because we, as I say, we haven't been able to test this one because it's so difficult. But it's almost a situation where constructors of this quality, they would not use uniqueness as a strategy. They would not require the solver to use uniqueness. I know they wouldn't. I'm not going to, I'm just going to put that out of my brain. It's not going. I was going to say it's not going to be something to do with. It's not going to be something to do with how you tie these ends together, is it? I bet it is something like that. It's something like don't you have to be a bit careful here? Maybe. So something I know about loop puzzles is you always have to have an even number of loop ends in any isolated area of a grid. And hopefully it's clear why that... I mean, let's look at this cell to see why that must be true. Imagine that the loop never passes through there and it never passes through there. Well, this is broken then, because it can't get out. So we know that this single loop end has to somehow get out. Now imagine there was one loop end coming down there and one loop end coming through here. Well, then there would be 3 loop ends in this section of the grid. And that can't work either, because you could connect 2 of them together, but the other one would be stranded. So you've always got to make sure that you've got an even number of loop ends in an area, which means that either, just thinking about this area, there's either one coming down here, one coming across here, or there's got to be 3 new loop ends. So there'd have to be something like 2 down there, 1 down there, or 2 down here, 1 down here. We've got 2 loop ends here, so this seems... Yeah, so we could do something like this. But the reason I'm a bit hesitant about that is just joining this up to here is that has created a loop, but it's not something down here has to presume. Yeah, we know that there's going to be a loop segment that touches this island, so I can't just loop this round here like this and leave behind this. So somehow or other we've got to make sure we get the right number of loop ends into the various pieces. So at the moment we've got 3 loop ends here, so we definitely need to equalize that somehow. But if we just had one, going across the top, then we'd have 4 loop ends in this section, which is a nice number. We could have 1 coming down here, so that's a nice number. But I don't like it stopping there, because again, I'm going to have a problem. This is a bit awkward, actually. Sorry, I'll stop talking. I'm just trying to think about the whole perimeter thing. I know there's a loop segment down here somewhere. So, if that just had an extension there and an extension there, again, that works in terms of the sort of number of loop ends in the northeast and the southwest, but it doesn't work actually. Or does it? Because I've got the same problem here. I've got 2 loop ends here that can't join to each other. So there has to be a loop end across. There has to be at least 1 loop end across the top and at least 1 loop end down the side. No, that's not true. That's not true, because what you could have is these two both going in the same direction, couldn't you? Like you could have, let me try and show you. You could have that, and then this one would join to that one, and that one would join to that one. And then you might not need to use the top at all. So if you did that, I quite like that actually as a thought. Although I can't have those both being no. Well, it's a different problem with that. I can't really work that out, but they're definitely not all water if you do that, because that's going to create a 2x2 there. Gosh, that's a thought actually. Oh, that's a weird one. Right, okay, hang on. Oh, good grief, right. This is some massive meta play, isn't it? It's something to do with how you... I don't really know. I don't quite know how to do this, but I am now I'm suspicious because I've suddenly noticed that I've only got 2x2 areas that provide the communication, if you like, between the various quadrants of the grid. And when I drew this in on this side, what on earth is that? When I drew that in, I was just trying to envisage how this could ever exist in the puzzle. Because, like, which one of these... Okay, what we can say is for sure this doesn't work, does it? Because that's just blatantly against the rules. That's all water. Now, okay, so which one of these clues are we going to make island? Let's say we make that one an island. Now, we know if this is an island, these two cannot be island, don't we? Because then the loop... Well, actually, do we? We certainly know that one can't be island. So that's definitely got to be water. We also know this one has to be water, because otherwise this island has two loop cells on it. Now this island has to get out, so it has to go down there, but then you get the same problem. Both of those have to now be water. Otherwise they've got two island cells. And that's not going to work, because these don't have clues in them. They don't have clues in them. Right, so... That is the only clue in the... Oh, that's weird. That's the only clue in the 2x2s. So is the idea that this is island or something, and it provides a way for us to get two loop segments around the grid? But I don't think you need this though, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure. If, okay, all right, maybe we go back a step. So what about if, one thing I'm very confident about now is it's incredibly difficult to get two loop segments. Well, I don't think you can get two loop segments through this. I'm not sure about this one. If that's an island clue, like if that was a 1, if that question mark was just a 1 island and all 3 of those were water, then that would be water. Isn't that okay then? Couldn't you do that? These would all have to extend and hit clues. But you haven't... Oh, no, you might have made a 2 by 2 here of water. Or no, unless... Oh, it's tricky actually. But you might be able to do it. What about if that was island and bumped into that, say, like that? You might be able to do it, because this could still pick up a clue to the left side. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, but what I think is true is it might be possible to get 2 loop segments through here. It's definitely not possible to get 2 loop segments through there, there, or there. That I am convinced about, because we looked at that. So that means there's a maximum of 1 loop segment here. It could be none. And this is what's making it even more complicated. Okay, so there could be 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, or 0. So the count of how the loop gets round the grid is 1 or 0 here, 1 or 0 here, 1 or 0 here, 0, 1 or 2 here. So but we know there's a loop segment here, and we know there's a loop segment here from the diagonal. I just don't. It feels to me like the parity's wrong. If you don't have... So you've either got... I don't quite know how to frame this in a way that my brain is resisting finding a crystal clear way of thinking about this. I'm so sorry if it's obvious. It could be obvious. I've definitely got loop here. So I have to get... Okay, alright. Okay, here's something. I'm going to start here, where I know somewhere down here there is loop segment, because this thing has to have a loop segment in it somewhere, don't know where. Now, that being the case, we have worked out that the two ends of, let's imagine it's this square, so we've got something like that in the bottom right. We know that the 2 ends, this end and this end, can't join to each other, and we know that we can't get them both out through here or through here, because we've looked at that, which means there is definitely 1 loop segment crossing this junction somehow, don't know how, and 1 loop segment crossing this section somehow, don't know how. Well, that's very interesting, because now, don't ridicule me. Now we know that there are not 2 loop segments here, don't we? Because we can't get 2 loop segments through there. So we've got an even number of loop segments in this section at the moment. and we can't get 2 in here. So if we had 1, there would be 3 loop segments in this southwest corner. That's not right. So I think there are no loop segments crossing the boundary here. But if that's the case, I've got 2 loop segments here, which can't be stranded there, so they have to both get out across the top. This is so clever. And if they both, and if they both get out across the top, then I do still end up with an even number of loop segments in this section, because I get 2 here, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is even, which is fine. That's fine. So, okay. So what we've now deduced is that, well, we've got to now convince ourselves we can have 2 loop segments crossing this boundary, like this, because I need to get these 2 out, because I don't think I can't end up with an odd number of loop segments in the southwest. So, let's take this out. So I know there's 1 crossing in the east, 1 crossing in the south, no crossings. I don't know whether I want to do that, because I'm not sure whether the loop can do that. It probably can't do that, but I'm just nervous about it. But I know there's no crossing of this boundary. So what I think we've now got to figure out is exactly how this works. I think we were thinking about it, and I was thinking it could work. So I think this has to be the island, because if it's not, if this is water, then don't we just have the most almighty problem? Something here needs to be island to stop a 2x2, and whatever it is, wherever we position it, you can see that we're going to have a second island cell before we get to a clue. So that's very clear. That is island. Now, if it's island, neither of these squares can now be island, so both of those must be water. This island has got a clue, that's fine. But if the island went down here, then both of these squares would be water. And this, oh, is that right? That might be fine, actually. Because this, oh, that's tricky. I hadn't thought of that. So this clue, no, that's wrong. It's wrong, because this clue, this island now has 2 thingies through it, two loop segments through it. So it just can't grow. So it is of size 1, which is what my instinct was when I was trying to work out how we were going to bypass this sort of 2x2-age. So now, well, it does get a bit easier. Okay, so this square is water. Because if this was island, that's island to get to a clue, and we get 2 segments on the same thing again. So that's water. I mean, it's a fairly straightforward point, but I need these to join up with these ends. So what we haven't got is that. That's going to sort of render all of this exercise completely and utterly bonkers. The same is true here, so that has to extend. Right, and this top one hasn't got to a clue yet, so that's got to be purple. This hasn't got to a clue. Oh, this is good. So this hasn't got to a clue yet, so that's got to be purple. Now this has to avoid a 2x2, so that's got to be grey, and this needs to get to a clue, so that's got to be grey. And now look at this. This can't go there, or it's got 2 segments in this island, so it dips and it closes, and that tells us the colour of this, which is now purple, because otherwise, again, if this is island, this has got 2 island squares in it. This is now definitely purple, because if it was island, this island has 2 thingies in it. We can't dip down here for the same reason, so we have to keep going. We need to get to a clue before we stop this segment going. That 4 clue is not this clue, is it? Because we've already got 4 line segments. Oh, I see. But we could have... Yeah, we could have 2 water there, and then this could... Oh, no, hang on. I don't think it will work. But it's probably... let's just keep going with the grey. That's got to get to a clue, so that's got to go there. This has therefore got to extend. And now, okay, now if we go straight on into the 4 needs to be a water clue, and yet we've got 5, well, we'd have 6 loop segments on it. So that's got to dip down there, which is therefore the water clue that corresponds with this water segment. It doesn't mean it's the end of that water segment. That water segment could continue because we've got no idea what question mark represents. But this island clue hasn't got out, so we can do that. It's still not got a clue, actually, so it probably gets that one. Wow, I don't know. That is, I think, water, because otherwise that segment's got no clue. So that's water. That's avoiding a 2x2. So that's thingy. This segment has had no clue, so we must extend it, and therefore the loop goes there. Okay, this 3 segment here has not got to a clue yet, so it can't dip and go into an island yet, so we've got to go down. We've got to extend again. We've got to find a clue for this water segment, and it's not this clue because this is already of length 5, so it must go here, I think, for its next move. Now this grey clue's got to get out. This top clue's got to get to a clue. This is very, very cool. That might be the end of this segment because we don't know what this question mark represents. Oh, now what do we do? Oh, it was going so well for a moment. Oh, I don't know. This is obvious. I don't think it is. Come on, brain. This is where I get tired as well. 93 minutes in of deep concentration. I don't know how many calories one burns doing, thinking of this nature, but I feel it's more than you might anticipate. Oh, hang on. I've spotted something. This thing has already had a thingy thing in its loop segment. Yeah, this is great. So I'm going to use this 3 clue. So if this 3 clue went up, let's be clear. If this went up, if the loop went up, what is the nature of this cell? Now it can't be water, or the 3 clue should be a 4 clue. So it would have to be grey, but then it would connect to this, and this grey region would have 2 loop segments in it. So what we're actually being told here is that turns, and therefore, it's less good, but that's grey. That's the last grey thing that this island has in it. So, okay, so how does this get to a clue is surely the right question. Now, I think this might have to be grey. Because if this is grey, this is definitely not grey. Because otherwise this region has 2 loop segments on it. Which means that's got to be grey in order to get out here. So whether this is grey or not, that is always grey. And that means that this the loop that's coming this way doesn't go here because, again, this has already had its loop segment. So we have to turn. But we don't know whether this is grey. It might be grey, it might not. Depends what the 4 is and any number of other things. Although, well, if the 4 is water, then it's a corner of the loop. But that's probably not a problem if this is grey. Well, actually, can I not just extend the logic for this bit? Doesn't that have to be grey? Because I've got to get this to a clue without touching that. Yeah, that's got to be grey. So this has now got to be water. That's beautiful. Good grief. But we can have a 2x2 of grey. So I don't think I know about this square. I might do for some reason. I'm not you know, I'm eliding over and my brain is not telling me. I mean, well, here's an interesting thought. What is the clue that this gets? My only contention here would be that I don't think it can be that one. Because if this does join somehow up to this, like let's say it's like that, the loop can't cross it. Because the loop has already touched this region. So the clue that this gets to, I think it's going to have to be that one. Although maybe, yeah. Well, yeah. Because if it was this one, which is the only other one it could be, well, I suppose unless it was something absurd like that one. But this, yeah, this has got to get to a clue as well. Which clue are we going to award this one? No, it could be that one. I think it's going to be that one. But if it was this one, it's not this one for many reasons. But I mean, it's just not. I mean, if that's grey, where does this go next? Given that these connect to one another, I mean, that's going to have to be grey. This is going to have to go up into a water clue that doesn't have a clue. It sounds like me doing the puzzle. I mean, if that's... Okay, this is grey, this 4 clue, because if that's water, it is a clue. It's on the loop, which forces the loop to do this. Now, what colour do we make this? This is we've got to avoid a 2x2, so it has to be grey, and now I've got 2 greys in this region. So actually, that 4 clue is grey, which can't bump into this, because this is tantamountly and manifestly greater than of size 4. So that's water. This grows the grey. This now is not on... Oh, yeah, this is not on the loop. Well, the loop... So we've got to be really careful here. Because the loop has to get into this island, but it can't get in there or it'll take a second clue. It can't go... Oh, I'm going to sneeze. No, don't sneeze. Sorry. Maximum concentration needed there. Yeah, it can't go back into this grey region. So it has to go there. Now, This clue still hasn't got to a clue, so it's got to go there, which is separated from that 4 clue by that. Oh, this is horrible. Have I broken it? I'm just thinking, oh, well, it can't go there. The 4 clue can't go there because I couldn't only take, when I pick up the 1 island cell of the loop on this, it would take a second one axiomatically. So that square must be water. This must be the final cell. This must be the cell the loop touches. It can't touch this, so that's got to be water. This, and now we have forced this down to hit this clue, which is what we thought was going to happen. This is isolated, and we don't have any ponds in the puzzle, so that's got to join there. This can't join that, or we'd have 2 loop segments in it. This hasn't got to a clue, so it's got to get out. It's going to take this one, I think. This is a pond. Don't make ponds. This, careful, Simon. Does that need to get... Well, no, it doesn't need to get to a clue, but it needs to get out, because it's not a pond. So we've got to get out like that, and then we do touch this square. But we can never go into the corner, because, again, we're going to take 2 cells of grey if we do that. So this is effectively a corner of the loop, and the loop does that, and therefore closes like that, because it can't come into this cell here, because it would take a second cell in this region, which actually, after all this, was a size 10 region. Oh no, could be an 11, because we don't know what this is. Wow. Wow, I mean, this is seriously, you can tell how well constructed this is, can't you? It's just ludicrous. Now, where does this go? It doesn't go up, because that would never have a clue related to the loop segment in the water. So it must go there. We can't go up, can't go down, so it must go there. Oh yeah, and we want the loop to close here somehow, don't we? Because we want 1 loop segment crossing this boundary. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty certain that this loop segment's going to take that one. Oh, though, okay, hang on. This has still got... No, actually, maybe that's wrong. No, I was... Actually, we've got 1 section of water here and 1 section of island, that neither of which has a clue. And both are sort of heading in this direction, looking hopeful. I mean, if that was grey, then the loop would come down there. I suppose that's a point as well, isn't it? This needs to get to a clue, but it's probably sharing itself with this clue, because these loop ends need to meet. So, how do we do this then? This pond at the top has to get out, but it's going to come out and it's going to hit this. That's still not getting it out, so it's going to have to come down here. Now, yeah, it's also true. If I double click all of the purple here, if you look at the area in the top right, this area is sort of part of the whole isolation. All of this stuff in the top right is isolated. So this area needs to connect somehow down here, which is potentially interesting. Maybe. Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand how to think about this. Maybe I'm meant to think over here. If that is, let's just think about that. If that's purple, this has to be grey to avoid a 2 by 2. That's going to create quite a big grey region here, which could join to this. But if it didn't join to this, it would have to pick up a question mark clue somewhere at the bottom. Oh, hang on, that doesn't work. Ah, no, it's much simpler than that, isn't it? Okay, that's very cute. Very cute, I just didn't see it, but I've seen it now. Right, so let's go back. If we do this, the point is that because this is grey and has to get to a clue, those are grey, and now I've isolated this region at the top. That's a pond, and we don't want any ponds. So that's really good, because that means this is grey, and if that's grey, this has to get out, so it comes down this way, which means the loop comes down this way, because it can't take a second cell in the big grey region. And now, this needs to get to a clue before it leaves purple. And now so it does pick up that one. And this region still hasn't got out, so it has to come down here. But, oh, hang on, this grey region hasn't got to a clue either. So that now does take this. But this has had its loop, so we've got to now dodge it. So we still haven't had a clue for this loop segment of water. This has got to get out. So all of a sudden, we've sort of done the top, the northeast, and we are I don't know what we're doing, but we're doing something. I'm oh, golly gosh. I mean, how? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, it looks like it wants to do that with 1 degree of freedom, and then that would have to be grey, and that would join to this. I don't know if that works for that one clue. That's the bit of that looks suspicious to me. But if it I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm tempted to go over here and just see if there's anything easier. Nothing up there looks very easy either. This has to get a clue. It's not the 3 clue. But that doesn't mean that the 3 clue is not... Oh, maybe it does. Yeah, okay. Let's go over here because I have seen something. If this 3 clue was water, then it must extend to this square because it needs to be length 3. It can't bump into this. So these would both be water, and that would be a 2 by 2. So that is grey. Therefore, this is grey in the corner. This is the only... Oh, well, yeah, okay. We can frame that grey with this to make sure it's not bigger than 3. But now, well... Well... Oh, there's some way of telling what this does next, isn't there? I mean... I'm not sure. I know... Okay, what do I know? I know this is now going to go there or there. But if it goes there... No. Okay, that's it. It don't go up here. I don't think, I'm not certain, but my logic for saying that's not going to work is the following. I now can't close this loop because this section of loop has not had a clue, and it must have a clue to indicate that there have been 7 cells between the 2 islands. in the water. So we couldn't close this. So we'd have to turn left here, but then this must be purple, and we'd have to turn left there, and that would have to be purple, and this would be a purple 2 by 2. So I think we actually turn west. But yeah, that's fine. I think that's correct logically, but it doesn't really help me. Oh, I'm sorry. This is going to have to get to a clue, which is going to be that one or that one, I think. If it was this one, all of these would be water. That might be okay. If it's this one, these two would be water. Oh, this is complicated. This has got to get to a clue, and it's got to have a loop segment in it. It's going to be something to do with how we connect up these loop segments somehow, is it? Because we know there's nothing crossing this boundary. So that there does connect to that. Because if we connected this one to that, this would be stranded on the inside of the loop. So these two connect with each other somehow. But they have to do it in the correct order, if you see what I mean. Golly, that's really complicated. I don't know. I can't see an easy way of determining. Maybe. Okay, let's try. I can't see it, so I'm just going to try and push this north. If it goes north, we know that that's then purple. We know that's then grey. And that is broken. Okay, it was simple, I just didn't see it. So just to, yeah, I think I'm getting tired now, because I think I would have seen that very simply just a mere moment ago. Yeah, if this goes north, the point is this becomes grey. So this, which hasn't had a clue yet, must stay in water, and it would go down here and connect with its friend here, and there would never have been any clue in that segment. So this doesn't go north, it goes west, and it still hasn't hit a clue, so that stays purple. It looks like it's going to bump into this, doesn't it? Well, now this one, this grey's got to, yeah, this is good. That grey has to get out. And now that can't take a second cell, and we can't close the loop. So we've got to drop and turn. It's almost going in the wrong direction, though, because we want that one to meet up with this one. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it looks very difficult for me now for this to drop down. Because then it goes there. This has to be purple. That has to be grey to avoid a 2 by 2. That has to be grey to avoid a 2 by 2. And what clue has this visited? Answer, no clue at all. So in fact, this goes there, which means that that becomes grey. That's got to get out, so that becomes grey. This has got to get out, so that becomes grey. Right, this doesn't drop, because if it drops, it's got to go straight through grey, because it can only take one cell in grey, and it would close the loop here. And that is not the idea of this this passageway we created, this dual passageway. The idea of the dual passageway was to get this out. So we definitely are not closing the loop here. So that's, well, the loop extends. I'm not saying I know what colour this is. I just know it doesn't go down there. Yeah, the loop can't drop there, so the loop goes there. Again, I don't know what colour this is either. This is so peculiar. How can you get so far and not understand? Right, this needs a clue. It hasn't got one yet, so it's got to extend that way. And it gets a clue, which is a 3 clue. This must extend. That's a 3 clue. That's an island. That's beautiful. That means I get to ring it. Oh, this is lovely. Look, I've had 3 clues here. So I can't go take the loop in there, or this should have been a 4, so I have to turn. Now, I don't know what... Yeah, I do know what colour that is. That's grey, because if it was... Again, it's the same logic. If that was purple, we'd have a section of 4. Right. No, that's wrong. Well, no, this is true. If that was grey, this section has had 2 loop segments on it, so that is actually water. Which is sort of interesting. This hasn't had a clue. Whoa. Okay, that's sort of weird. What? Okay, here's a question. And this might not be valid, but I'm going to ask it. What clue does this avail itself of? But remember, this is a water section of the loop. So it has to... The loop is going to stay in the water on this section, wherever it goes, until it hits a clue. Now we know that the loop doesn't go down here, because to do that it would have to turn and go back up again, because there's no net crossing across this boundary. And we know that is an impossibility for the loop to do that. So the only clue that this can get, that's in the right place for it, it can't get to this one, because although it could, well, it could do that. Of course, this loop segment's stranded on the inside of the loop. We know this bit has to connect to that bit. And the only clue is this question mark clue. So this stays in water until it hits this. Now, next question. Given that I think that is true, doesn't it have to hug the perimeter? Because if it didn't hug the perimeter, if it sort of dipped in a bit, that would imply that there was a clue sort of outside that, which should be clued for an island, and there isn't. There's no clues over there. So the perimeter here is all purple. That's got to be grey to avoid a 2 by 2. That's got to be grey to avoid a 2 by 2. This, we can't stay in grey, so we have to go up, which means that determines the colour of this as not grey. That's purple. Ooh, that needs to be... Oh, no. I don't know. It's still... No. Well, yes. I mean, doesn't this have to close now? If it goes anywhere else, it's not going to close in the right place. Yeah, I mean, we know... I don't quite know how this closes, but I know this goes up here like this and closes like that. This cannot be on the loop. Otherwise it would take 2 greys on the loop. So we can't turn into that square now. If we go up, we're taking 2 squares on the loop. So that is how the inner piece closes. But I still don't know. Oh, no. Oh, no, I see. So I was confused as to how I was going to make this work, given I've got this. But I can do it now by joining all of this up as grey. And if I don't do that, then I need to have the loop cut this in exactly one place, which I can't have now, because we know this needs to get to a clue before it dips into grey again. So those two are both grey. And that's so beautiful, the way that's sort of finished itself. Now the weird thing is, though, what is going on down here? Can I... Right, I see. Okay, the answer is there must be a grey clue in one of these, because otherwise that's a 2 by 2, isn't it? So given one of these is grey, that is always grey. It looks to me like we're going to have to join that to the 4. I'm not certain that's right yet, but that's what my feeling is. Yeah, well, the fact that's grey means this can't dip, because it needs to see this clue before anything else. So it goes straight across. Right, we do know as well, if we're remembering what we learnt about the purple here, having to get down the sort of east side of the grid, this purple at the top has to get out, so it's going to have to come down this passageway, and it's going to have to come through here. So this grey, which needs a clue, has to dip, this has to extend, this has to extend, this has to extend, this has to extend, and that, being grey, is of the correct size. Disambiguating all of this, forcing this to get the purple out. Oh, okay, so now the question is going to be which cell of this 4 is on the loop. Well, it can't be that one, or that one. So it is this one. That's on the loop. Let's somehow illustrate that we know that. Let's do that. Well, no. This is also on the loop, this question mark here. This has to get out of its pond. Oh, look at all these question marks swanning around at the bottom there. So... Oh, I don't know. I mean, why couldn't it do something like that, and then it just joins up to one of these clues next? The fact they're all question marks means that there's so many ways this could work. Oh, we've still got the 13 clue looming here. Oh, hang on, I know whichever way this goes, it's got grey next. No, okay. Wow, I mean, look at this bottom left area is essentially a 13 clue and a whole bunch of question marks. Okay, we've trotted over 2 hours. It looks like I might have done about half the puzzle. Okay. So, goodness me. Shall we try? I don't really know. Maybe I should try and work out what that 1 was doing on the right hand side. I don't understand how I do this on the left hand side, so I'm going to go to the right again. Let's have a think about that. So what I was wondering was, if this was... I've got to get purple to a clue here. I've already got 5 cells. I mean, it looks like it wants to join this, doesn't it? I realise that that's, looking like it is not the same thing as actually doing it. But I think we're going to get the same sort of pattern here, that whichever one of these I make purple, the other one has to be grey, which has to get to a clue, whereas the purple itself has to get down the grid to get out, because this is otherwise That's just a very lengthy cul-de-sac, isn't it? So that's going to come down, that's going to come down, that's going to come down. But now, yeah, okay, this is not grey in this paradigm. Because if it was, it couldn't bump into this clue, so it would be forced here, and this purple would never get to a clue. So in fact, that would definitely be the purple clue, which makes me think this is right. So we'd have to do that. Now, the only question I had in my brain was, what was the nature of this? Because in this world, this can't be grey, because grey is already there. So this would have to be a purple. This doesn't work. That is beautiful. Right. Can you see the problem? I think there is a problem here. It's really lovely because the loop we know visits this square and we know it visits this square. These are both water. But the loop can't do that because otherwise there's been no islands between the two water segments. So the loop has to do this. But how could the loop do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That has to be water. And therefore that has to be water because it can't be anything else. And that's a 2 by 2. Now what's wrong with that logic? That feels deliberate. The way that works is so gorgeous. It's what's wrong with that logic? Hopefully nothing. But what could be wrong with it? Yeah, I mean we can't wiggle around it. You can't do something like this. Because now this 10 is the wrong count. Okay, that's fabulous then. So actually it's not that. It's the other. So it's actually that's grey, it's a bit surprising. So this is how the purple's going to get out. This is how the grey's going to get out. The purple's going to come here. Now we're going to have to check the count for the purple. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I thought that was not. I thought it was going to go wrong. Because now it can't bump into the 10. Because it would be 11 if it did that. So right. So it's got to go down to the question mark clue. That it is forced to do that. Oh, now this is getting very difficult, isn't it? Oh, I'm nervous about this now. So now if the grey doesn't take the 10, it would have to dip round it. And now this is impossible. Because it can't be grey, it would have to be purple. And it can't be of length 10 because it'll immediately bump into a 1 clue. So that is grey. Which means this is now purple. This is a clue. Ah, okay. This is definitely grey, so that's definitely grey. And now this is interesting because that square can't be on the loop. So this, because it would be 2 greys if it was. So this effectively becomes a corner, and we have to do that. And it's of size 1, so I actually this time get to draw grey things around it. Now, this is good. So now my 10 clue has had its thingy, which is the technical term for being its loop cell. So we can't make this grey, or there'll be 2 loops in the 10, so that's got to be water. This has got to get to a clue. Oh no, it's still okay. No, it's still okay. Oh, I was just thinking it can't take another square, so that's still alright. Gosh, it looks tricky, this, because I've got 7 cells of this. I've got to make it 10 cells, but I can't bump it into this because that's got a different clue in it. It looks like this is just going to close that way, doesn't it? But I don't know. Oh, this purple has still got to get out. Oh, this is good. So it's got to go a bit further. I mean, that doesn't mean anything about what the loop does, but the purple does have to get out. We can definitely say the loop isn't coming into any of those squares, because otherwise there'll be a second loop in the 10 region. Okay, so this square has got to be in the 10 region, doesn't it? And that is going to be massive. Because if I take that square, that's not enough. I can't take this square as well, or I'll bump it into this region. This has been so carefully constructed, I cannot tell you. You can sense it. Every deduction is incredibly precise. So that means, because this has to be grey, now what are we doing with our loop? It can't take a second cell, so it's got to dip. Now we can't close this there, so we do close it that way. We can have 2x2s in grey, obviously. So although that might be grey, or if that's water, water has to get out. Don't know. Oh, it's tricky, isn't it? At least for me. I don't know. Oh, come on, Simon. Okay, here's a point that might not be valid, but I'm going to try. If that's grey, well then it's not possible for both of these squares to be grey, because they would connect two grey regions. So one of those is purple and it's isolated as a pond. So in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we've said it can't go here. It could go here, but then it must go here. So that is definitely grey. And now this needs to get to it's a pond, and it needs to get to a clue before it exits the water. And now this needs to get here to get to a clue. So this is a size 5 region that's already had its thingy. Okay, that can't be grey, because that would then be purple and be isolated. So this is purple and has to get out. I mean, don't forget, we've also got to get the loop into this section wherever it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Don't know about this square. Yeah, we don't know. It's awkward. This purple still hasn't got out, so it's pushed down again. Now, does that mean I know what this is in the corner? If that's grey, maybe there's a reason that's just instantly failing. I can see it's hugely powerful if it's grey. Maybe it is grey. What if it wasn't? Well, the interesting thing then is it's a clue, so we have to put the loop through it. But now I've got to be very careful to avoid putting a second loop segment into this 5 thing. So we'd have to turn there. But haven't I now got maybe I haven't got a 2x2. I've got to be really careful here, though. Really careful. So let's think about it. We know for sure this is now not grey, so that's purple, which means that is grey. Yeah, and that grey needs a clue, so that's grey. And how do you not close the loop or take a second cell in grey? You have to. Aha! So that means this is grey, which is not what I was expecting. That has many implications. Firstly, this purple region needs to escape still, because it's still basically a very, very large cul-de-sac. So this grey region comes across the bottom. This grey region needs to be of size 5. Let's separate the two grey regions. We get an L pentomino of loveliness there. That is a beautiful island. This has to get out. This has to... Oh, this is really tricky, because this 5 region needs to have a loop segment in it. And where is that loop segment? It must only be the very tip cell, because anywhere else it's going to take 2. So this is... Oh, that is a corner of the loop. There. Boom. And we can surround it with purple to make sure it's of the correct size. Okay. That's hugely cool, but it still hasn't done anything. Well, no. Okay, we can't have a second loop segment in there, so this has to turn. It has to keep going. And we have to be a bit careful here as well, haven't we? Because we've just picked up this square. We can't turn to the right, or we'll take a second in the L pentomino. And we can't join it to this, because we need to have islands between the two clues. So I strongly suspect that this is now an island. I just think there would be too much going on. I mean, if that's purple and a clue, and can't bump into that, that's going to push the loop up here. This is going to have to be an island, and therefore that closes the loop with 2 loop segments joined up. So that is grey. This has to get out. It's a pond otherwise. Haven't got to a clue, so it's got to extend. The loop can't go into the 4 clue. Actually, no. That's not true. It could come in from the east. Probably does, therefore. Golly. Right. So what on earth do I do next? I don't know. I've got to... How many... Did we work out at some point? We did. There's 1 loop segment that crosses the south boundary. Now that means that this has to join to this somehow. But it has to join to it without that being a direct join. There must be an island between those joins. But hang on. There's also a loop segment that's somewhere up here, which is going to complicate matters. I mean, if this is grey, either this... The only way this is not a corner of the loop is if this is grey. And if this is grey and a corner of the loop, that is then purple. Oh no, maybe that's all right. I don't know. It's not absolutely impossible that that's okay. Or maybe the idea is I somehow know how this 10 finishes. I've got 9 of it so far. I mean, I want it to go there because I think that would be more powerful, because then I have to get this out. No, isn't that a problem? Yeah, I think that's a problem. If that's grey, so I have to make these, all of those purple. The problem here is that this that gives rise to 2 loop segments that would go through this square, because it would cause that. And but I've only got one exit from this area here. I'd have to go down, because I can't go through the 10 clue again. The 10 clue's already had its thingy thing, so that doesn't work. So in fact, the final, it's less powerful, but that's the final cell of grey, which means this is definitely water to frame this 10 clue. And that is going to mean that there's more latitude in the world, frankly. There might be some trick you can do here regarding, making sure you've got enough separation between the various islands. Like, if this was water, well, if that's water, it's a really powerful clue as well, isn't it? Because it causes so much damage in terms of 2x2age. You have to do that. That almost looks right to me, actually. That really does. I mean, the reason let's just play around with it for a moment. But I can see it's doing that, which is, that's quite interesting, isn't it? I think it is. Oh, here's another thought I've just had. Let's just take that out. I still haven't got this right-hand side purple region out. It's still got to come somehow down to the bottom of the grid. So the fact this is... And what do we know? We know there's one crossing here, don't we? Which is... Oh no, I suppose it could be partially through a grey area, I think. If that's grey, is that worthy of consideration? Yeah, that can't be grey. If that's grey, this has to be water. But this has to be the only cell in this P pentomino that takes... And now what do we do? This hasn't had a clue, so it can't be. Aha, this is massive. This is massive, because now this is purple. That means I do get to put 2 greys in there. The only cell in this hexomino now that wouldn't result in a second grey cell once it's on the loop is this one. So this is a corner of the loop. That drops down, can't close the loop, so that drops down. That segment of the loop does have a water cell. Now, what does that mean? Well, is it... Oh, I was about to make an assertion that might not be right. Yeah, okay. Here is an assertion that I think is right. That cell is part of that 4 island, because if it was not, it needs to get to a clue, and it would go down there, and the 4 island could not be big enough. So these somehow, I don't know how, these connect to one another. And that means that the purple on the right side of the grid has to get through a sort of a wall that's only semi-formed between this cell and this cell. So it must loop over the top and go to that square. And now this has to come down, and that is the shape of the 4. It's like an Italian boot. We've got to frame it, we've got to put that in to get the purple out. We've got to get the purple out here. And we've still got to... Right, oh lovely. And then we've still got to get the loop through here, because we've got a loop segment here. Well, it can't go there anymore, because it will take a second grey cell. So we go up and across. And now this has got to get out and can't go in the boot. So it goes like that. This has got to get to a clue. Right, what does this mean? So now, yeah, however this extends, it's extending into water, isn't it? Because it's not had a clue yet. And if it went into the 4 clue ever, this is clearly going to be longer than length 4. So the way that this gets out is along here with a purple string of digit, or a string of loopiness like this. I think that means this has to be purple, because if it does, yeah, if it dips and goes up, this would need to be island, and it couldn't be. So that's got to be purple. Therefore, these are all island of some nature. We've got to get this crossing like this. Oh, this is so exciting. I've only got 1 quadrant of this left to do. And, okay, how could this 4 clue, how could the 4 cell itself be on the loop? Because we know this is growing, either there or there, but that would make a corner of the loop, which would necessarily mean this had this shape, whatever shape it was, would have 2 loop segments in it. So actually, this is not on the loop. And therefore, well, yeah, and now we know which way the 4 goes, because if the 4 goes there, that would have to be its cell on the loop, and it couldn't be, because we take that one as well. So the 4 goes there, and that is the cell of the 4 that is on the loop. We can frame it with purple, like that. This is on the loop. Oh no, alright, what now? Oh my goodness me. Yeah, and I'm not allowed to use the fact that I strongly suspect there's a wall of grey going across there. Wow, what a puzzle this is. I'm still not, I mean, I'm hopeful in the end I'll be able to finish it. 2 hours 26 minutes. Okay, what do I do now? How do I think about this in a way that's sensible? I've still got to get this bottom purple segment to a clue. It could be that one, could be that one. I mean, it could be any number of things, frankly. If it's that one, is that sort of the most likely thing? It's almost not likely. It might even be impossible for it to be that one. Because, okay, yeah, oh, sorry, this is much easier. I am definitely getting tired because this is a totally trivial point. This has not got to a clue, so it can't go off and swan into the grey. So there is forced. But now we can't do that, can we? Oh, this is going to force so much. We can't do that because that, again, this segment of the loop hasn't got to a clue. So we have to do that, which means that has to be purple, that has to be grey, that has to be purple. This can't run off into another grey before it gets to a clue, so we have to loop up there, forcing this to be purple, forcing this not to close the loop, so we go up. Again, that purple has to get to a clue before it's allowed to go out of purple again, so it goes up there to get its purple. And now this needs to get to a clue, and this is what I thought might happen about 2 hours ago. This is being forced over, not by uniqueness, but by the need to keep these, or to get to a clue, frankly. Okay, so what now? Again, this has got to stay in the water until it gets to a clue. Well, we can't go up there with the loop because it will immediately take a second cell, so we have to turn, but we don't know what colour that is. But we do know that this middle purple region is also basically a big cul-de-sac, and it has to get out, so that's got to be purple. But this is definitely not loop, because then the 4 clue would be wrong. So we have to drop down here, and now nothing else in this grey region that we're slowly building. That's the last cell of loop that's going to appear in it. So this cannot be grey, because if it was grey it would be a second cell, so that's got to be purple. Therefore the grey has to extend, and the grey, we can't take this into grey again, so it slips through the grey like that. This cell has to get to a thingy, so we can do that. Oh, maybe this is going to all be part of the 13 clue. Oh, no, I'm not sure. I don't know actually. Okay. I wish I knew what to do. Well, yes, I sort of do. This can't go up here, because again, it would turn and we'd take 2 cells in the same island, so we have to go that way. Which is it's true, but I think it doesn't tell me what colour this is. I suspect, what do I think? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what I think that's going to be. I also wonder... No, I don't think this is true, but I did wonder whether there was some meta point that meant that the perimeter now has to be purple. But I think actually maybe if that's... Well, I do suspect that's not grey, but imagine if it was grey and it just did that. It might be okay. There might be some route you could take that would be all right. This still has to get out, doesn't it? Oh, that's quite interesting. So that's become... What is going on now? So that's become a water clue. Part of the loop. Yeah, this is good. This is good because that is effectively a corner of the loop now. Because what can't happen is that. Because this would be a second cell within this grey region. So we can't go there, so that is a corner. And we can't go straight into another clue. And we have to... Oh. Well, I want to do that, but I now realised wanting to do it and it being correct logically is not the same thing. 2.5 hours. Oh dear, dear, dear. Yeah, okay, but I can keep applying the same sort of logic. That can't be grey now, because it would be a second grey clue here. So that has to be purple or water, which means that's now grey to avoid a 2x2. This grey has to get to a clue, so it grows a bit more. This is super, it's super exciting now. Oh, come on. Thing is, I can see it might be possible for that to do that. No, but okay, it's not possible, is it, for that to do that? If it did that, this has to drop, this has to drop. No, actually, I'm wrong. That might be okay. This would definitely be great. I know it wouldn't work. I mean, it's complicated because that would be forced down, and this would be forced to be a grey, because this would be forced to be purple to avoid to make sure this continued to a clue, and that would be grey, and there'd be 2 in the same region. So it doesn't work. There's probably a more elegant way of seeing that, but that is logical. So if we can't do that to get to this 4 clue, we must be picking it up like this, but that's still not that helpful. Because I don't know whether it does that now. I know this doesn't go into this region again. Oh, here's a point which might be simpler. This is not grey because it would be part of this region and have a second cell in it, so that's got to be purple. This grey has to get out, so that's another little win for the good guys. That's purple because we haven't got to a clue yet along the bottom. This can't go up and can't go down because it would take 2 cells, so it must go to there. But we don't know what colour that is. Well, we might do, but I don't immediately think I know what colour it is. Now, okay, well, let's just check the count of this. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 10 at the moment. To get to the 13, it's going to be 12, and that's very interesting in the context of this cell. Okay. I don't know. Is it? No, that's a silly thought, I think. I don't know how big this is. I actually think now we might be one deduction away from finishing the puzzle, but I don't know what that deduction is. I suppose I know that has to connect to that somehow, and this has to connect to this somehow. Maybe that's a point. Yeah, that is a... That's actually... Oh, no, it's only really cool if I can assume that this joins to grey. Because what I was thinking is, we've already had the loop segment that is in this grey region. So if this grey region joins the 13, this can't attach to this by cutting it off. So it's going to have to go around the edge there, which is really, really surprising. Or maybe, actually, here's a different way of thinking about the world. So we have to make a decision which clue this is attaching to, this great big region. Now, obviously, I think it's going to be the 13, but let's try and imagine it's not that. If it was this, then clearly to get this out and connected with anything, it's going to cross that region, and that's not possible because this region has already been crossed. So this grey region doesn't join this. If it's this, again, somehow or other we're doing this, aren't we? And this is going to have to cross it in order to connect up with this. And if it's this, I don't even know how we couldn't even draw it. We just couldn't without hitting one of these other clues. So this is grey. And now I can apply the logic I was just thinking about, which is how do we connect this and this without going through... I don't know which of these is grey, or even if both of them are. But I do know that this and this have to connect. So they have to slide round the outside of this. Now, and because this is grey, I know that's definitely water now. Yeah, okay, so now I'm going to have to be really careful about 2x2s, because the other thing that's going on here is that this has to connect to this outside of this clue. So we've got this going on as well. And that makes me want to make all of those purple. That might not be valid, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, what is the clue that's relevant for this? Which question mark can it use? It can't use this question mark, because that question mark is hypothecated for the inside of the loop. So the only question mark it has available to it is this one. So all of this is purple. This is therefore grey. These two are both grey. This grey can't connect to that 13, so that's purple. That's got to get out. This is a 3 size purple. This has got to cut across. If it takes that one, isn't it getting too big? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 13, 14 if it takes this one. So this is water. This has to connect to a clue, so it's going to connect to this thing. This has to be separated. This has to connect. And 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's the final piece of the jigsaw. Is where, well, I've got to still do the loop. But that cell is not determined by uniqueness. It's determined by the wonderful logic in this puzzle. Now, how on... Oh, okay. Well, now this is grey, so we can't take a second cell in that. So we have to turn across and stay in there until we get to a clue. We've got to stay in here until we get to a clue, so we've got to do that. We can't take a second. This is just finishing. Oh my goodness, that's it. My phone is buzzing. Let me see. That's nothing interesting. Not nearly as interesting as this. That is so ridiculously clever. Now, hang on. How is it right? No, I can't let you do that. Oh, this puzzle doesn't conform to standard rules, doesn't include solution. 16 people have solved this in nearly a year. Yeah, I know I'm rounding slightly there, but that's how I view that. Wow. Okay, and I can't tell whether it's right or not. That is somewhat depressing. How? No, it's gonna take quite some studying to work out whether or not this is correct, isn't it? Because I'm gonna have to check each sort of segment of the loop, and all the islands are the right size, and there's only one loop segment in all the islands. I mean, I'm looking at it as we're doing it now, and I can't see anything obviously wrong. But I could have missed a 2x2, or I could have missed connectivity, couldn't I? Let's just double click the purple. I think that's connected. I think it's connected. Okay, and the other thing I'm thinking about is how we're going to be able to... Maybe what we might have to do... I'm going to have to turn off the webcam in a moment or two, and then I will study the grid. If I think this is correct, we will come up with some way of allowing checking. Maybe we'll get you... If you put 8 over all the loop cells or something. I don't know. It's not a brilliant idea. I don't quite know how we're going to be allowed checking for the puzzle, if indeed I've got it right. But I feel like I did, because that finish was so absolutely ridiculously beautiful. I mean, the whole thing. It is magnificent. This is why people are saying this is, one of the best puzzles they've ever done. Is that it is phenomenally constructed, and the logic is all slightly different here and there, while at the same time some of the overarching principles are gorgeous, like the connectivity, the idea that you had to have 2 loop segments going across here, and it was the only this was the only sort of 2x2 where it could work. I mean, that's so it's genius setting. It really is. Wow, I'm so sorry. I mean, this is a Lord of the Rings edition. It's a very special puzzle, and I hope occasionally you will be grateful and glad that we showcase some of these absolutely brilliant puzzles. I'm so thrilled I've managed to get through it. I'm going to turn off the webcam soon, because I'm terrified that the video will go nuts for being so long. But Jakob and Woofer ZFG, You have outdone yourselves. That's one of the great puzzles. That is one of the great puzzles, my friends. Take a bow and relish all the plaudits that you are about to get. You fully deserve them. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.